Hi, welcome to my little corner of the internet. Um, I wanted to do a little a build tour for something that I made that I figured wouldn't make a very good tutorial because it's kind of sporadic and how I put it together is a little more random than how specific it needs to be. But I still thought that I might share it just in case anyone else wanted to see it. Or I mean, my real hope is that people might watch the things that I make to some degree and be inspired by them and want to get out the bricks again and build something. I apologize for the audio. I don't have a real microphone, just recording on my phone. I would fire my audio technician, but then I would fire myself. So I'm not going to do that, and we're just going to bear with it because I think that it'll do just fine. However, this build particularly warranted a little bit more explanation than some of the other things I've made in the past, at least. So I thought that it would be kind of fun to do a little video just kind of talking about how I made it and stuff just for fun. So this is my World War I build of a shelled out farmhouse that was kind of on or near the Western Front, kind of inspired by wrecked buildings that I saw pictures of stuff that I've seen. And I put some fun attention to detail. I thought that I might explain a little bit just in case anyone cares to see it. So this is the build. It's fairly small, actually. I used one of those largish single green base plates right here. That's kind of all this main piece is. And then these other sections are just other tinier ones. But I started with a little road section because I thought it would be fun to do like wagon wheel ruts in a road. And I thought that would be kind of interesting to think of maybe like automobiles or like artillery pieces that were pulled through the road a lot, like really run down and used in one specific way. So I thought it would be kind of cool to accentuate kind of those wagon wheel ruts. And I didn't look at a whole lot of architecture. I probably should have, but I did. I just kind of went with the flow. Yeah, I've got these cool windows that were originally my inspiration to build it because I thought I would do kind of a town setting. But I have sort of this, again, this sort of cutout of earth. It's just bricks on the inside, and I used just bigger platforms on the bottom to kind of cover it up. But I did this funny bit because I read All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a fantastic book for anyone interested in the sort of the war media of the time. But there's an interesting scene in which this artillery battalion is kind of holed up in a wrecked town. And I thought, oh, it would be really fun to do a build kind of inspired by that. So I purposely made it so that this piece comes off intentionally so that you could kind of get inside and look around. But it was a really fun thing to do. So I made these two British soldiers that are kind of holed up in like this temporary home that was probably a lot more welcome than the trenches. And I just kind of went with the flow and saw how it went. I wanted to do a building that looked like it was hit with an artillery shell or kind of wrecked, but not inherently like derelict. Like I didn't want it to look like it was like dilapidated and falling down. I instead kind of wanted it to look like, oh man, somebody had freshly abandoned it or freshly evacuated it, and then it happened to be hit with a rogue shell. I kind of did the same thing on this fence here that you can see, and I'll try to do a closer angle later to show it. But I had this funny little bit here on this tiled floor where I had these two British soldiers, and looks like this guy is sort of regaling the younger soldier here with his tales. And I did a little frying pan and stuff, but I kind of wanted to do a comparison of like soldier life to like the soldiering part of like how they'd live their lives as opposed to how they would fight. So I did actually a mortar build. I might do an actual build for this if anyone cares. It's pretty straightforward though, but I did actually a mortar build that was just here. Originally it was the original idea for it, but I thought, oh, well, they live their lives in and around these kinds of things, and it'd be interesting to do a comparison of that. So it's supposed to be sort of a juxtaposition between like a vehicle of war right here and then their normal lives and them just kind of living it. So like it's normal for both sections of it, which is cool. So yeah, there's the mortar back there, and I was going to fill it up with other stuff around it, but I didn't really bother. And then I have two soldiers that are kind of camped out and kind of just hanging out and trying to make the most of their time that they're not being too involved. The funny thing is, when I was putting this together, is the goal was to make like sort of a rogue German shell hole in the side of this building that they were using to shoot the mortar out of, but it kind of ended up turning around and it looked like they were clumsy about the mortar and shot through the side of the house and destroyed it. So that looks funny too. I thought that could be a funny story as well, but that's not necessarily the case. I wanted it to look like a building that had was in the path of some indirect artillery that they then used, sort of taking advantage of to not only live in, but also to fire the mortar. So it's kind of fun. I did a little attic space up here too, just for extra detail to kind of make it, whoops, there goes one of the flowers, kind of make it a little more immersive. But yeah, it's kind of a fun build. And again, I would only ever want to feature things like this to maybe inspire people to want to build stuff like this. I personally love doing cut out of the earth builds in which it is like just a section, like really nicely trimmed on the sides, but then all wild with the nature on the inside. I tried to make it look like it may have once been maintained, but now is a little more wild because people haven't been here. Yeah, it's mostly just plates and bricks. It's not anything super complicated. It only took me a little while to build, but it was kind of a fun put together, and I figured it would be fun to feature. Yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting for sure. Here's a little bit of a closer angle if anyone else cares to see sort of how I specifically did things. It's fair, like I said before, it is fairly straightforward. The point of it was not to make it too complicated because I wanted it to look somewhat natural. And again, it's just, it's architecture, it's minifigures, it's plants. You can't really get it wrong that much. But it's fun. I used a couple different textures, different tiles and stuff, to look sort of like a stone floor, and there's like, wood closer to where the doors would be, and it has kind of like a mortar outside, no pun intended on the weapon that happens to be in there. Yeah, and I did a little windowsill and stuff too. But yeah, this was just a little build that I did, and I thought that maybe if somebody watches this and gets inspired by it, and it's like, man, that's a cool thing, I would like to build that, or I'm inspired by that, I want to do a derelict building or something like that, then that would be all I could hope for. So I don't know. I hope you enjoyed. Hope that maybe you got something out of this. Just another guy on the internet making stuff. If you think it's cool, then do what you will. But I do this stuff anyway, so might as well show it off. I mean, I'm very proud of it. It's something that I can do well. So thanks for watching.